Have you been reading Once in Future by Boom Studios? Because King Arthur as a zombie bad guy. I mean, let's dive in. Welcome back to Longbox Diving, where we explore comics and story arcs pulled from the long box. Now, I hope you've been reading Once in the Future from Boom Studios. It is. I heard about it, and I was like, oh, let me try it. I can't find it in the store anywhere, so I ended up having to do it digitally. And it's been fantastic. It's really a pretty good story. I like the old Arthurian legends. I like things kind of sometimes twisted on their head. I like some dark humor. I like zombies. Who doesn't like zombies? So this was written by Kieran Gillian. Dan Mora is doing the art, and we got Tamara Bonvillain doing the colors. It's just fantastic. And you look at this cover here. This is very, very cool looking. I mean, he's holding the sword and whatnot, and he's got that zombie face. Fantastic. So this story, we start out. There's an excavation at a lake, and they got this tent set up, and he is called for an expert, the excavator, the guy who's doing the archaeology in this area. It's in Cornwall, Great Britain. So he is found a scabbard. Now the scabbard, it's an old scabbard. Apparently, it's at the bottom of the lake, and this redhead comes in, and she's going to evaluate it. Now he was kind of surprised because he's like, well, how did you get here so fast? I just called for somebody, and yet she's already there. So she walks in, she looks at it. Oh, yeah, I think this is exactly what she wants. She puts her phone. Hey, this is what we want. Three grunts come in. It's like, are you sure? Yeah, this is the thing we've been looking for. And they pull a gun out, put it at the archaeologist. Is gone, and there's like, he's like, what do you want? And he goes, we want to bring England back. So, good start to the story. I mean, that hooked me immediately. Watching that, seeing what was going on there, I was like, I am hooked immediately. I want to know what's going on with the scabbard. I want to know what's going on with these characters. Why are they shooting people randomly for no reason? I don't know why. So then we flip over to Grandma. Now, Grandma is in a nursing home. Well, first, if you see this panel here. Look, that zombie with the crown on it. Just great stuff. All right. So back to Grandma. Grandma's in a nursing home, and she is sitting there listening to the news. Now, Grandma's kind of sassy. And actually, I like this because you have to see Grandma. They use the same panel, same art from the top panel to the bottom panel, but she's like, bugger. It's just very cool stuff. And she's like, I need to go take a smoke out in the garden before I go to bed. Cool. Then we flip over to the grandson. I believe his name is Duncan. He is on a date, and apparently this is something he does often, and he spills wine on his date. I think if you haven't done something like this on a date at some point, you're probably lying. So he is trying to help. I spilled. I'm blowing it. I'm just blowing this date. I'm a bumbling idiot. And then he gets a phone call from Gran, and he's like, I got a call from my gran. Of course, she finds it very touching that he is taking care of a gran. You find out that she put herself in the home so she wouldn't be a burden on him. And so when she calls, he's like, okay, I'm worried now. He's like, she's tough as nails, man. She is hard as nails. She came over from Ireland, and when she was 15, and worked and took care of me and all this kind of stuff. And then Gran calls again. So he's like, hey, I got to take this. I got to go. Now, Gran is apparently out in the middle of the woods. Her walk took way out in the middle of nowhere. And she says, hey, I need your help. I don't know if you're busy, but I need your help. It won't take too long. Come out and help me. So he's like, hey, to his date, I'm sorry I spilled red wine all over you. I'm sorry I'm a sucky date, but I got to go. Now, I can say I have not done that. So he heads out to the woods. He finds Gran. Gran's out there lifting, like you're trying to get this huge metal door to lift up out of the ground. And this actually made me laugh. He goes, don't do that. You're going to hurt yourself. Typical thing grandson says to Grandma. Now he goes, but how did you even get out all the way out here? And she's like, Uber, dear. He's like, all the way out here? Do you have any idea how much that cost? And she goes, don't make that face. It's a free app. though I'm not sure if it's that free if they wanted my credit card. Now, that made me laugh because I could actually see my parents saying that very thing. But yeah, that made me laugh. So she actually flips it open, and it is like this treasure trove of weapons. There's like every weapon you could think of in here: guns, knives, swords. Just some great spears, a rocket launcher. Look at this; she's got grenades in there. Crazy stuff. Of course, he is just like Duncan's like, what? The art here, it's fantastic. Dan Mora is doing a great job. His faces are very expressive. You can tell what's going on just looking at the face. It is fantastic. So they drop down in there, and he picks up this huge thing like this, and he goes like, "What is this?" And she's like, "Well, we don't need that one because that's used to hunt vampires." Can you imagine your grand saying that to you? Hey, I got a cache full of weapons out here, and that weapon right there is used to hunt vampires. I'd be like, Grant? I'd be probably a little shell shocked myself because that's not my grandma. And so she's hunting for a certain item down in this storage bunker, and she's like, "Oh dear, do you know what a questing beast is?" Now, none of us know. I don't know. Maybe you know what a questing beast is. I didn't know what a questing beast was. And he's like, "You never even let me watch Scooby-Doo. How in the world do I know what a questing beast is?" She goes, "Well, you're about to find out." And then you see it. This huge horse, snake, dragoness. It's just weird, very creepy. And she's like, "You might want to run." So he takes off. Boom. And again, look at the movement in this picture. I mean, he's running. Look at his facial expression. He's terrified. And I can honestly say I would be terrified if that thing was chasing me too. And Grant's like, "Yeah, just keep him busy. Just keep moving. Keep him busy." Like this is no big deal that she does this every day. So he's racing through the forest. This thing is chasing after him, and she is searching through her crate of goodies. And she's finally like, "Hey, Duncan, lean back here." So Duncan turns around, and it's like right in front of him. And then we got this great panel of him running straight at it like this, and then he reaches down and grabs a stick or a big log thing, and he shoves up in the mouth of the beast, and he turns around and keeps running, and it snaps it and comes after him. And all of this is just, the art here is very expressive. You can see the movement, even the lizard man, the way the eye looks over that direction, just fantastic stuff. And he's running back to Grandma, and she throws up a spear. She's like, "Good boy, catch this." And he's like, "What, huh?" And he just like, "Fine." It turns out pointing at the thing. And that was good. I mean, yeah, he's a klutz. Yeah, he's kind of, but he's willing to do what needs to be done when it comes down to it, and I can respect that. So he points the spear at it. Of course, his eyes closed. He's like, but the thing turns on, walks away. He's like, "Do we let it go? Or should we chase it down?" And she's like, No. That's for something else. That's a beast of legend. We don't really worry about those." She goes, but that's actually real." And he's like, "No, it's okay. Everything's fine. You don't have to worry about it." So she's like, "Okay, we need to go and figure out what's going on with the scabbard thing over at the lake." And she pulls a gun on him. Like, Gran pulls a gun on her grandson, and it's like pointed right. Okay, and he's like, "Gran, you raised me. You're not going to shoot me." And then she shoots him, and he's like, she hits him in the ear. It's like, "You shot me." Yeah. I was trying to give you a close shave, but fingers crossed. Let's go. So she holds the gun on him all the way back to the car, and she starts explaining what's going on here. So the scabbard belonged to an old warlord in Britain. The scabbard had the ability to heal any wound, no matter how big it was or how long. I mean, you could stab him and it would just close right up. And then his sister stole it, threw it in that lake, and then his son ran him through with the sword, killing him. And he's like, "Well, that's okay." Now, he said the sword got a name, but the scabbard never did. The scabbard never got a name. People's priorities. The scabbard's the thing that really, made him what he was, not the sword per se. And he's like, "Well, what was the sword called?" Excalibur. Now, we all know from legend what Excalibur is. And he's like, and I can see myself doing the same thing. I go, what? And she's like, you're repeating yourself too. Oh, it just cracks me up because I can just see my grandmother saying the same thing. And he goes, no. It's not King Arthur's sword. Now, Excalibur was never King Arthur's sword. It was actually the Ladies of the Lake sword. And they loaned it to him. But if someone has the scabbard, then they're going to try to bring him back because all they have to do is take the scabbard and put it on his body and he heals. But he's like, well, isn't King Arthur the good guy? And she's like, oh, you're adorable. She goes, no, King Arthur united Britain and pushed all the invading foreigners out of Britain. That's a good thing. But then they always forget that he went to war with Europe and he crushed them. So he was always Britain is for Britons and not for anybody else. And to the point that he's going to kill them all to protect his country, even protect it from a future idea that they might be coming. So he is very, very hardcore in protecting Britain. So now there was a prophecy. She goes, there's a prophecy that says he will return in the darkest hour, Britain's darkest hour. Now the problem is with all prophecy is that sometimes things can be taken both ways. He will return in Britain's darkest hour could mean that he could come because it's the darkest hour, or it's the darkest hour because he came. So it could be good, it could be bad. We don't know yet. But from what she's representing, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a good thing that King Arthur comes back. So this interests me. I can't wait to get into this. I can't wait to see more of this stuff. So that was the end of issue 1. And that was just fantastic. And then I, it's like, you know what? I got to get issue 2. So I went ahead, I got issue 2, and I started reading this as well. And this was also really, really good. We start off with this, great page. It was almost exactly the same. The cover, exactly the same as the first one, but instead of King Arthur holding the sword, we now have Gran holding that sword with King Arthur's in the knight in the blade. Very cool. Then we start out. They're on our way to the lake, and Gran's still holding the gun on Duncan. And this was hilarious. She's like, "You're holding a gun on me," and she's like, "Well, now this is just to make you feel. No, I know you're interested, but this is just to make you feel like you're still have a measure of control." He's like, "This is out of my control completely," and it was hilarious. So they're still heading out there. They get to this place they're going to, and he's like, "Why did the questing bee show up?" Because you're on a quest now. He's like, "Oh, beautiful. Wonderful." So they get to this castle thing out in the middle of nowhere, and they walk in, and there's these 4 ladies. Gran calls them demon ladies, and I'm not sure if they're the ladies of the lake. I think they are the ladies of the lake. They are the ladies of the lake. Those are the 4 ladies of the lake. And if you look through the doorway, you can actually see almost like a skull face made out of the very creepy looking, made out of the skyline and the trees and the clouds. The art on here is fantastic, and the coloring done a really good job on this, making this very creepy looking. So you got the ladies of the lake, and he's like, what the crap? That's all right, just ignore him, keep going. So they're heading back downstairs, and the redhead and the 4 goons are there, and they're uncovering the tomb, where King Arthur's tomb, and they're getting ready to go, and they break it open, and you see King Arthur laying there, just completely skeleton. And he's still wearing the crown, completely skeleton. And she lays the scabbard down into that. And then, Gran's walking up, and she's like, "Okay, you don't need the gun anymore. You're here. You're definitely interested, so I'm going to give you your own gun." She hands him this machine gun. He's like, "I don't even know how to use it." She goes, "Point, shoot, dead. It's easy. But be careful for rocks. Please don't be a klutz now." And as we know, Duncan is definitely a klutz. Then we get this great shot of King Arthur waking up. And you got all this green glowing stuff all over him, and he's very, very zombie-like. And as we watch the progression of this, you'll actually see muscles start forming between one panel and the next, where his body is reconstituting itself. This was just fantastic. And again, not a lot of words here. We don't need a lot of words. The art is telling the story, and so we're getting a lot of that too, which is really good. So we go into this, and it's like, okay, and he starts talking, and they're like, give him time. That is old Welsh, and he should sink to us. Now he stands up, and he throws his fist with the green energy into the wall, and pulls a sword out. And then you see his panel. He's got his internal organs are starting to come in, his intestines and his lungs. And it's like, well, what does he want? He's a king. Kneel. So all these guys start kneeling. And he grabs one of them by the arm, slices his palm with the sword, licks the blood off the dude's hand, and then goes, Anglo-Saxon. And then just chops the dude in half. Grabs his face palm, and then like, that is bad. All right. Then we get, Nan's like, okay. He's like, what do we do? And she's like, his world is Britain for Britons, and it doesn't include those 4 dudes. And the other guys start shooting at him, trying to fight him off, and he just ends up slaughtering them all. The last guy's like impaled on the sword, and the redhead's just laying there with her hand up in the air, saying, hey. So he comes up, slices her palm, and tastes her blood. Now, Gran's over here saying, hey, I know her. She used to be my assistant. And she should know better than doing this, but she's doing it. Now, King Arthur said, hey, you're a Celt. You come to pay homage to the true king of Britain, Celt. So she's obviously okay in his book. And the Anglo-Saxons were definitely not. So he calls up and goes, raises his knights, raise Gawain. And he raises all these knights. And they form up into his new Knights of the Round Table. And the zombie knights, man, that is just... They look like, that dude there looks like Shredder a little bit. Honestly, looks like Shredder. Now, they start, he goes, hey, where's my Merlin? She goes, we couldn't find his body, but I will advise you. In fact, I have a boy, Galahad, who should be a knight. And that just really freaks Gran out. She's like, no, she wouldn't have. He goes, my Galahad, he can bring back the Grail to you. And Grant's like, oh boy, that's it. That is like the end of the world. That is the final thing, man. We are in trouble. And they're trying to get out, and Duncan kicks a rock, of course. And he's like, what should we do now? Should we start shooting? She's like, well, it can't make it worse. And so all the knights are coming toward him like that, and they're like standing there, and Gran looks awesome, and Duncan looks like resigned. He looks like he's gonna. Now, this is the end of issue 2. I really wish there was an issue 3, because right now I'm really hooked in this. This looks fantastic. The art is fantastic. The color is fantastic. The writing's fantastic. It's very emotive. You got dynamics. You got lore, which I like. History and twisting it a little bit, making it a little bit different. All of it fantastic. So if you're not getting this, you probably should be getting this on your pull list quick. I think the stores are selling out, so get it digitally if you need to. Get it in the stores. Definitely a recommend for me. I like this. It's very good. So if you like this review, please like and subscribe, and we will see you here next time in the Long Box.